Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery who are probably one of the best known Swedish breweries these days. Another gypsy brewer, but they are based primarily in Stockholm. So for this one then we are going to return to Omnipollo and we're having a taste of the Quadruple dry hopped version of the Fatamorgana. So the original Fatamorgana of course is an oat based IPA. It's kind of a hazy IPA if you like. That one came out around 2013 or 2014 if I'm remembering correctly. It was brewed before the whole haze craze really hit Europe actually, so it was kind of an unusual beer, that one, when we first tried it, but it turned out to be very, very popular. It's now a regular in the Systembolaget range, and they've produced this one, the Quadruple dry hopped version, which was released on the 6th of December 2019 through the Tillfälligt Sortiment in Systembolaget here in Sweden. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. Like I say, 8%, as is the case with the original Fatamorgana. But yeah, we'll just need to see how we get on with this one. This brewery, of course, are really well known for their Imperial stouts and the flavour essence season things that they put in those, and some of the gozies and other sour beers that they're producing these days. But when it comes to the kind of purist brewing, such as Fatamorgana or Nebuchadnezzar, the West Coast IPA, and they've got some more kind of straight up Imperial stouts as well. I remember Between the Lines that they did with Trillium from over in America. The purist beers, or more purist approach to brewing that they take in some of their beers, is really pretty damn solid as well. So that tells you just how good this brewery is, in my opinion. So yeah, definitely a brewery that you want to check out if you get the chance. Very good when it comes, they've kind of almost pioneered that flavour essence side of brewing, but they are very good when it comes to the more kind of nitty gritty purist type brewing as well. So yeah, if you get the chance, check out some of these beers. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. As is usual with my reviews, I'll tell you a bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Omnipollo before. No doubt there'll be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but very, very regularly. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Omnipollo then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you before, Omnipollo was founded back in 2011 by Henrik Fenty, who was a long-time home brewer, and Carl Grandin, who is a clothing designer. So the two met one day and they decided that they wanted to start a brewery together after they discussed just how insular the craft beer scene in Sweden was, and abroad as well. And they decided that they wanted to reinvigorate craft beer both from a stylistic sense, which is why you get some of these lovely labels on the Omnipollo beers, and also from a gastronomic sense, and that is really what took Henrik down the route of brewing with all these kind of flavour essences and adjuncts and stuff like that they put in their beers. So they really felt that this partnership between a home brewer and a designer was really quite logical for them, and it's worked out very, very well, I have to say. The name of the brewery is derived from omnipotent chicken, so Omni, Pollo of course, Pollo is Spanish for chicken, and these guys are gypsy brewers or phantom brewers or whatever you want to call them. So they've got no brewery of their own, they use the spare capacity at other breweries all around the place, and they brew many collaboration beers as a result of this, and at the moment they're exporting to somewhere in the region of 30 or 40 different countries. I've seen these beers making it out to Japan these days as well, and it's taken them a little while to actually get them out and over there. But recently, after they're recently working to open up a new bar in Tokyo, but soon after they formed, I think it must have been about 2016 or so, they opened up the Omnipollo's Hat in Stockholm, which is a collaboration bar with Pizza Hat, and this has some really, really nice pizzas, some beers from Omnipollo that you're not going to find anywhere else. Hopefully I can go and film a little out and about video for you there at some point too. In 2019 they also opened up a bar in Hamburg down in Germany, and I think just before that they opened up one in Gothenburg in Sweden as well, which is very, very close to Barcino Hagebjörn's Cafe, and I didn't know it was there, otherwise I would have gone and had a little look at it, but that's definitely one for my next trip up to Gothenburg. So maybe I'll do some little out and about videos for you at the different Omnipollo bars. That would be a really nice thing to do. But according to Untappd, these days they've produced somewhere in the region of 300 different beers, and you know, you're going to find some really interesting stuff from these guys. Probably the most famous beers that I can think of from them at the moment would be the Yellow Belly, the Imperial Stout that was dressed up like the KKK guy. That was a really nice Imperial Stout. You also have the Aeon, is probably, or Noah as it used to be called, the Noah Pecan Mud Pie Imperial Stout, I remember. And then of course you have Fatamorgana, which is a regular in Systembolaget, and you also have Nebuchadnezzar, which is a regular as well. So very good kind of New England type IPA with Fatamorgana, and a very good West Coast type IPA with Nebuchadnezzar as well. Definitely worth checking out. So yeah, both ends of the spectrum. You've got some very good dark beers from these guys, some very good kind of more light beers, I would say, and they're very good at the purist style brewing as well as doing all the things with the flavour essence, and they're starting to produce more and more goses and things like that too. So I quite fancy having a go at some of the Lassie type goses, so I'll need to keep an eye out for them at some point. But I've not tried a sour beer from Omnipollo yet, so that has to be my next review from these guys, I think. But yeah, a very well known brewery these days, doing some really ridiculous sounding beers, but trust me, they do tend to turn out pretty damn well actually, so check them out if you get the chance. That's all you really need to know about Omnipollo for the moment. If you want to learn more, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. You can check out Rate Beer and Untappd to see information on all the different beers. They do have a good section on the different beers on their own website, and I will say as well that all of the individual bars that they have also have their own individual Instagrams and Facebooks as well, so definitely worth having a look at those as well. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So this one, as you can see, has some of that lovely artwork I was talking about from Omnipollo. Fatamorgana, of course, is a type of mirage, hence why you've got the kind of the moon. It looks like it's kind of over the water or something like that. That's how I always interpreted it, to be honest. But the original Fatamorgana, I think, is just one. I'm sure it's just one single one on the bottle, but there you can see this one has 4 because it's been quadruple dry hopped actually. This beer is a few weeks old. I've always found that if you drink dry hopped beers, you know, straight away, they always feel very kind of there's almost just a little bit of that kind of green burn out of them, if you like. I think you've got to let these beers mature a little bit and just mellow out almost. And I find that's a little bit of a thing that's more common with the New England IPAs than the West Coast IPAs in my experience. I think West Coast IPAs, you can drink them fresh, but you've got the sweet caramel notes to balance them out. You don't get that so much with the kind of New England hazy type IPAs though. There's been a few different versions of this beer brewed. There's one that is brewed by Great South Bay Brewery in New York over in America, and this particular one is brewed by Sigtuna Bryghus, which is a little bit to the north of Stockholm, in Sweden's oldest town, or just outside of Sweden's oldest town if I remember correctly, quite close to Arlanda Airport. So yeah, the European version is brewed at Sigtuna, and the American version is brewed in New York State at Great South Bay. So we can get rid of the brewery notes now for this one, and we can get on with actually tasting the beer. So an 8%, I guess you could say Imperial Hazy oat-based IPA, this one. The original Fatamorgana says it's an oat-based, an oat IPA. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. A 440ml can, this one, named after a type of mirage. One of the other things I should say about this beer, like I said earlier, this beer was released on the 6th of December 2019 through the Små Partiers, or Tillfälligt Sortiment, I believe it's now called, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably the Swedish speakers watching me are laughing at me for that. But originally this beer was supposed to be released 2 weeks before that, but they had a problem with exploding cans, so they had to delay the release and bring it out 2 weeks later. So yeah, interesting stuff. But yeah, as you can see with this one, that is one of the most kind of gloopy, soupy New England hazy type IPAs that you're going to come across. That one is, it looks like, you know, freshly squeezed passion fruit juice or mango juice or something like that. This one looks straight up like a kind of tropical fruit juice, I have to say. I think that's one of the haziest of the hazy New England or hazy IPAs that I've ever come across before. That's impressive. Thumbs up to Omnipollo for this one. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, just look at that. That is ridiculous, to be honest. In terms of its colour, definitely leaning towards that yellow end of the spectrum, almost like a kind of peach juice or something in terms of its colour. You could see there was about a quarter finger of a frothy white head. That's faded away to just be a very, very thin, foamy white layer. I would say it's pure white, not creamy or anything like that. Definitely more of a pure white layer. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and you can see a few little bubbles just heading up towards the bottom of that kind of foamy layer as well. But overall, a really nice looking beer, this one. Pretty much what you would expect from one of these kind of hazy type IPAs. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh, straight away with this. You get all the oats coming out of this right away. This one comes across as a very smooth and very creamy sort of hazy IPA. As I've told you before when I've been reviewing the Trillium and the Treehouse beers recently, Trillium for me always strikes me as being a bit more wheaty and a bit more kind of bitey, whereas the Treehouse ones are a little bit more kind of smooth and creamy. And Fatamorgana, you know, it's almost a bit more akin to the kind of smooth oaty end of the New England spectrum. It's not one of the more bitey, wheaty type New England IPAs, and this one really does kind of stick to that in my opinion. So you've got that lovely, big, smooth, oaty creaminess to the beer. Don't think this one's got lactose in it, but there is almost just a little bit of a kind of sweet, sugary type thing to this, but it's quite minimal, it's not overly noticeable. A little bit of a kind of sweet, biscuity note in there as well, a bit of that McVitie's digestive kind of thing. You can smell, when you sugar it up, you do get a little bit of that kind of wheaty, almost bitey, astringent wheaty type quality coming out of this one, which is nice. And I really like how that goes together. The malt base is really balanced between the more kind of smooth, creamy aspects that you would expect of this style, but it's also got a little bit of that kind of stronger white bready bitiness, and a little touch of sweetness too, which I really, really like. So yeah, it's a really nice smelling beer, this one, from the malty perspective. I always like the aromas to be balanced between the malt and the hops, but of course when this one's quadruple dry hopped, you are going to get a good bit more hoppy character out of it. And for me it comes out on the green side of things. There's a lot of nice kind of floral characters out of this one. This is definitely not a kind of piney resinous beer in my opinion. It's more leaning, the green side of the hops really leans more towards the kind of floral, aromatic-y side of things. There's definitely a lighter grassy note to it as well, and then there's a lot of that kind of tropical fruit in there too, which is very nice. I'm not sure exactly what hops they would have used in this one. I'm guessing that Citra would be one. They might have changed the hop bill of this beer right enough, because, as I say, if I remember correctly, this beer came out in I'm sure it came out around 2014 or 2015. It was not long out. I came to Sweden back in 2015, and I'm sure this beer was released just before that, so it was 2014 or 2015 that this beer first came out. So I'm guessing it would be the likes of Citra and things that would be in that. I don't think it's overly likely to be Galaxy or anything. Maybe Citra and Simcoe. And I mean, with this beer, in terms of its fruitiness, it's got a little bit of that kind of pungent, passion fruity note to it. But if it's Simcoe, I've always found that Simcoe is a little bit smoother and almost a bit more kind of creamy in terms of the passion fruity character that you get from that. I'm pretty sure there is a bit of Citra in this one, because you're getting nice mango notes. You're also getting a little bit of a gooseberry kind of lychee thing out of the beer too. And I think this is a Citra and Simcoe beer. There's just something that's telling me that it's Citra and Simcoe in this one, like smooth passion fruits but a little bit of pungency. The Citra of course will give you a little bit of a darker grapefruity note, especially when you mix it in with Simcoe. So yeah, I think I've got a feeling that it might be that. And I mean, it's not, I don't find the passion fruity or the grapefruity notes pungent enough to be, for example, like Galaxy. The Galaxy seems to have replaced Simcoe in a lot of brews these days, at least in Scandinavia. But the fruits in this one are really nice and smooth and juicy, so they haven't with the quadruple dry hopping, I mean, a lot of the times they do double dry hopping, quadruple dry hopping. You know, I do wonder if there is a point where you get to kind of saturation when it comes to dry hopping and things. We'll see when we taste it, but you know, in terms of the fruits, it comes across really nice and juicy. Like I say, a little bit of that darker grapefruit, passion fruit, you know, definitely some mangoes in there. There's a wee bit of that kind of papaya quality that you can sometimes get from Citra as well, and you've also got a little bit of that kind of gooseberry, lychee type note in the aroma as well. But the more you smell of this, the more the kind of floral qualities push their way out of this beer as well, and you start to get some of the more wheaty notes out of it too. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the quadruple dry hopped Fatamorgana from Omnipollo, one of the famous Swedish gypsy breweries, phantom breweries, whatever you want to call them, from Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, kampai. Yeah, that's really nice actually. You know, like I was saying earlier, if you have a big dry hopped IPA, I think you really need to just let these mature a little bit, to be honest with you, and mellow out. Because I remember I tried the Lervegan Amundsen, was it Even More Cowbell it was called, which was the most dry hop beer in Scandinavia. I don't know if this one might have overtaken it. I think it was 80 grams per litre of hops or something like that they'd dry hop that one to. Something insane. And it was a nice beer, but I think I drank it too early. I think I drank it when it was just too fresh. This one seems to have mellowed out just to a really, really nice level, and it's pretty much on point in my opinion. So I need to keep that in mind when I've got like double dry hopped beers and things like that. Maybe I need to keep them for like, you know, maybe 3-4 weeks or something and then try them, I think, because this is mellowed out really quite nicely. I'm not, you know, I don't know how long Systembolaget would have stored this for, but I think at this point in time it's a really, really good stage. So, you know, thumbs up to Omnipollo once again for this. It's not surprising they've put out a good beer there though. Does it have a canning date? No, it doesn't. It just says best before 2022. In fact, no, sorry, wrong way around. Best before the 22nd of September 2020. So I'm guessing that's when it would have been canned, and then it'll have, you know, when you put it in the can, you've got to let it mature for about 8 weeks or something like that, and then it's ready for release. So yeah, this one really is just a nice stages now. It's still got that kind of hoppy character that you would expect, but yeah, so let's try and break the flavour of this one down a little bit then. So straight away in the middle of your palate, you can feel that nice kind of smooth. There's definitely a little bit of that kind of white bready, wheaty presence there, and you can feel it push its way out the further you go into the aftertaste. On top of that though, you get a lot of really smooth oaty qualities out of this one. I'm not sure if this one will have a little bit of an oatmeal in it as well, because oatmeal can really smooth out the malt base of these beers. It's used very often in stouts and things, of course, but in the New England IPAs it also works very well. And I always remember Fatamorgana as being a very, very smooth hazy IPA. I've not had one a good long time. I don't think I've had one since I reviewed it for you on the channel, to be honest. But I always remember it being a very smooth, bright IPA, and you can really get that big oaty smoothness out of this one in the centre of your palate too. But the interesting thing with the dry hopping, you can feel a little bit of that kind of hoppy, dusty quality in the middle of your palate, and it dries it out slightly compared to the original. That's what I'm really finding is the big difference here. You do get that kind of hoppy, dusty quality, especially towards the back of the tongue. When you're in the very centre of your palate, you get a little bit more of the kind of biscuity sweetness out of it too, which is quite nice. Yeah, there's a wee tiny little bit of that biscuity sweetness in the middle of the palate too, but I'm finding that very quickly, almost just like that, just disappears to give you the more kind of dusty, dry hopping qualities there. But they linger, you know, the way that they come out, they dry out the middle of your palate, but then you get the nice fruity notes towards the front of the tongue. And it's a really interesting kind of transition that you get in there. I don't think in a dry hop beer I've had it where it's been all over the palate like that, with the kind of dusty qualities, but it works out really really nicely, I have to say. I mean, as I say, thumbs up to Omnipollo for this beer. I think it's great. They've managed to kind of keep what Fatamorgana always was, but just giving it a little bit of a boost in a nice direction, so that's what you want. So yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, there's maybe a teeny little bit of earthiness there, but that's very, very minimal. As you come further forward from that, you really start to get some of these nice big sort of floral aromatic notes out of this beer. And the thing is, if you're dry hopping the beer, you're not going to get more bitterness out of it doing it that way. You've got to add the bittering hops early on in the brew, and there is a fair little bit of bitterness to this one. This isn't one of the more kind of smoother or juicy, creamy type IPAs. It does have a good little bit of bitterness backing it up, which is nice. That's one of the things I always missed about the West Coast IPAs. But this one definitely has a little bit of that nice big kind of floral, it's almost slightly spicy quality on the side of the tongue, but it's just nice and kind of zesty, if you like, almost. But round the front curve of the palate, it's definitely a little bit lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, you've got that lovely oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. So let's put the last of this in, because we will get a little bit, I'm sure there'll be a little touch of sediment to this one, just because of how long I've had it. But let's have a little look at those fruity side of things then. So yeah, on the fruity side of this beer, if you go to the very back of that kind of oily bubble, there is a little bit of that more kind of pungent, grapefruity, it is more of a grapefruit than a passion fruit, but you do get a little bit of the more juicy passion fruity quality out of this one. But then as you come further forward, it gradually kind of mellows out to be a little bit more kind of you know, mango-y like, and a little bit papaya, I don't know, apricot, maybe a little bit apricot-y. And then on the very tip of the tongue, it's more like gooseberries and lychees. I think the citra comes out really quite obviously in this one for me. I'm pretty sure there is citra in this beer. As for the passion fruity, grapefruity notes, you know, I'm wondering, could they have replaced, I'm sure it was Simcoe that was in this originally, but I mean, could they have put Galaxy in this? Because there is a little bit more pungency to that sort of grapefruity, passion fruity note. And as I said earlier, for me, Simcoe was always quite a smooth, almost creamy type hop in terms of the passion fruity notes, but Galaxy was just that little bit more pungent, more of a kind of kick in the balls or the ovaries or whatever kind of thing. You know, this one definitely has a little bit more pungency to that darker kind of side of the tropical fruit, but the lighter juicy notes come out really nicely. I'm pretty sure there's citra in either Simcoe or Galaxy in this one. I couldn't say for sure, but that's me kind of guessing. There's other hops out there that will give you the same types of flavours. Of course, Eldorado will give you a nice passion fruit. You know, there's other things. I think Victoria's Secret's a little baby brother version of Galaxy as well. There are other hops out there that do that, but I'm pretty sure it'll be either Simcoe or Galaxy and then citra inside it. So yeah, there's your guess the hops for this video. But the main thing to take away is that this is quite a, if you can say it that way, that is more of an old school New England hazy type IPA. This one, it's got that lovely smoothness that you expect of the original Fatamorgana, but it's just a little bit more kind of dusty in the centre of the palate, and the way the fruity notes come out in this one is just a little bit more pungent than I remember the original one being as well. I think there's a little bit more bitterness to this too, but I mean overall it's a beautiful beer and you can't really ask for anything more than that. I think I've really caught this just in its in a really good stage. So 6 weeks after release, it's turned out very, very nicely. Maybe 4 weeks. I would have been keen to try it after 4 weeks and then try it again now. But regardless, a beautiful beer, but you wouldn't expect anything less from this brewery, I have to say. And the more you drink of this too, it does thicken up a little bit. The further you go into the aftertaste, some of the floral notes linger there. Some nice oily, the fruit gets a little bit more, goes from leaning towards the juicy side of things to the more oily side as well, which is interesting. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, it's at the top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. This, I always find the dry hop beers are a little bit kind of heavier, to be honest with you. The carbonation's very smooth, the mouthfeel again is very smooth. It's got a little bit of creaminess to it, but it almost feels a little bit drier and dusty because of the dry hopping that's gone in it. In terms of the hoppy bitterness, I would say this one's got to be about 50 IBUs. I think it is about 50 because there really is a little bit of that dryness around the edge of the palate. So somewhere between 40 and 50 IBUs. I think I can't remember what the original Fatamorgana was. It could, you know, in fairness, the original one could have been a little bit higher because that was before they started taking the bitterness down in favour of the fruity juiciness. People were still used to the West Coast IPAs back then. So it might be the same. I might be talking rubbish in that sense, but I think about 40-50 IBUs with this beer. Malt base, like I say, is really quite smooth. It thickens up a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste too, but it really, the dustiness that you get from all the hops that are in there, the dry hopping, dries out the middle of the palate a little bit, and you've got a lovely big juicy kind of quality to the beer. It's got a little bit of oiliness to it, but it's more kind of smooth, dusty type fruity quality that you get in this beer. But overall, it's a really nice take on the Fatamorgana. It reminds me a little bit of that Even More Cowbell from Lervig and Amundsen up in Norway, which was really nice. So yeah, an interesting beer, this one, so definitely have a go at it if you get the chance. It would have been cool to do a sort of head-to-head between this one and the Even More Cowbell. I'm not sure if this one was kind of a response to Even More Cowbell, which at the time was the most dry hopped beer ever, I think, in Scandinavia. So I don't know if this one has overtaken that. Let me know in the comment section below if you know about that. But a beautiful beer nonetheless, and you wouldn't expect anything less from Omnipollo. I think this one had a 4.2 rating or something on Untappd, which tells you what you need to know. So yeah, awesome beer, and cool to review another one from Omnipollo for you. Let's leave it at that. So this one was the quadruple dry hop version of the Fatamorgana, an 8% hazy New England type IPA. This really nice and definitely cool to try a new version of a beer that I really used to quite enjoy. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Omnipollo as well. We will return to this brewery at some point soon, but in the meantime, make sure you try this beer and see how you go on. I think my next Omnipollo review will be one of the kind of Lassie Goza beers that they've been producing, because I do enjoy a good Lassie, and I've been getting a little bit more into the Goza style too. But yeah, check out Omnipollo, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slanja, Skål, Kampai, cheers.